Okay, good morning, Year 6. It is Thursday and we are going to be reading our second instalment of Skellig. So I hope you enjoyed the first chapter yesterday and we'll get on with the next one. Okay, chapter 2. I nearly got into the garage that Sunday morning. I took my own torch and shone it in. The outside doors to the back lane must have fallen off years ago, and there were dozens of massive planks nailed across the entrance. The timbers holding the roof were rotten, and the roof was sagging in. The bits of the floor you could see between the rubbish were full of cracks and holes. The people that took the rubbish out of the house were supposed to take it out of the garage as well. But they took one look at the place and said they wouldn't go in it, even for danger money. There were old chests of drawers and broken wash basins and bags of cement, ancient doors leaning against the walls, deck chairs with the cloth seats rotted away, great rolls of rope and cable hung from nails. Heaps of water pipes and great boxes of rusty nails were scattered on the floor. Everything was covered in dust and spiders' webs. There was mortar that had fallen from the walls. There was a little window in one of the walls, but it was filthy, and there were rolls of cracked lino standing in front of it. The place stank of rot and dust. Even the bricks were crumbling, like they couldn't bear the weight any more. It was like the whole thing was sick of itself and would collapse in a heap and have to get bulldozed away. I heard something scratching in one of the corners and something scuttling about. Then it all stopped and was dead quiet in there. I stood, daring myself to go in. I was just going to slip inside when I heard Mum shouting at me. "Michael, what are you doing?" She was at the back door. "Didn't we tell you to wait till we're sure it's safe?" I stepped back and looked at her. "Well, didn't we?" she shouted. "Yes," I said. "So keep out, all right?" I shoved the door and it lurched half shut on its single hinge. "All right," she yelled. "All right," I said. "Yes, all right. Do you think we've not got more to worry about than stupid you getting crushed in a stupid garage?" "Yes." "You just keep out then, right?" Right. Then I went back into the wilderness we called a garden, and she went back to the flaming baby. Chapter 3. The garden was another place that was supposed to be wonderful. There were going to be benches and a table and a swing. There were going to be goalposts painted on one of the walls by the house. There was going to be a pond with fish and frogs in it. But there was none of that. There were just nettles and thistles and weeds and half bricks and lumps of stone. I stood there, kicking the heads off a million dandelions. After a while, Mum shouted, "Was I coming in for lunch?" And I said no. I was staying out in the garden. She bought me a sandwich and a can of Coke. "Sorry it's all so rotten, and we're all in such rotten moods," she said. She touched my arm. "You understand, though, don't you, Michael? Don't you?" I shrugged. "Yeah," I said. She touched me again and sighed. "It'll be great when everything's sorted," she said. I sat on a pile of bricks against the house wall. I ate the sandwich and drank the Coke. I thought of Random Road where we'd come from and all my old mates like Leaky and Coot. They'd be up at the top field now playing a match that would last all day. Then I heard the doorbell ringing and heard Dr. Death coming in. I called him Dr. Death because his face was grey and there were black spots on his hands and he didn't know how to smile. I'd seen him lighting up a fag in his car one day as he drove away from our door. They told me to call him Dr. Dan, and I did, when I had to speak to him. But inside he was Dr. Death to me, and it fitted him much better. I finished the Coke, waited a minute, and then I went down to the garage again. I didn't have time to dare myself or to stand there listening to the scratching. I switched the torch on, took a deep breath, and tiptoed straight inside. Something little and black scuttled across the floor. The door creaked and cracked for a moment before it was still. Dust poured through the torch beam. Something scratched and scratched in a corner. I tiptoed further in and felt spider webs breaking on my brow. Everything was packed in tight. Ancient furniture, kitchen units, rolled up carpets, pipes and crates and planks. I kept ducking down under the hose pipe and ropes and kit bags that hung from the roof. More cobwebs snapped on my clothes and skin. The floor was broken and crumbly. I opened a cupboard an inch, shone the torch in and saw a million woodlice scuttling away. I peered down into a great stone jar and saw the bones of some little animal that had died there. Dead blue bottles were everywhere. There were ancient newspapers and magazines. I shone the torch onto one and saw that it came from nearly 50 years ago. I moved so carefully. I was scared every moment that the whole thing was going to collapse. There was dust clogging my throat and my nose. I knew they'd be yelling for me soon, and I knew I'd better get out. I leaned across a heap of tea chests and shone the torch into the space behind. And that's when I saw him. I thought he was dead. He was sitting with his legs stretched out and his head tipped back against the wall. He was covered in dust and webs like everything else, and his face was thin and pale. Dead blue bottles were scattered on his hair and shoulders. I shone the torch onto his white face and black suit. "What do you want?" he said. He opened his eyes and looked at me. The voice squeaked like he hadn't used it for years. "What do you want?" My heart thudded and thundered. I said, "What did you want?" Then I heard them yelling for me from the house. "Michael! Michael! Michael!" I shuffled out again. I backed out through the door. It was Dad. He came down the path to me. "Didn't we tell you?" he started. "Yes," I said. "Yes, yes, yes." I started to brush the dust off myself. A spider dropped away from my chin on a long string. He put his arm around me. "It's for your own good," he said. He picked a dead blue bottle out of my hair. He thumped the side of the garage and the whole thing shuddered. "See?" he said. "Imagine what might happen." I grabbed his arm to stop him thumping it again. "Don't!" I said. "It's all right. I understand." He squeezed my shoulder and said everything would be better soon. He laughed. "Get all that dust off before your mother sees, eh?"